Hi guys, it's Heather from heatherchristo.com, and today I am making creamy vegan tomato basil soup. I'm kind of early fall here with tons of tomatoes still coming out of the garden, and I have to use them up really quickly in large amounts. And this soup is one of the most delicious ways I know how. I have a secret ingredient, and it's cashews that makes this super rich and creamy, and it feels just like you've put heavy whipping cream into your soup, which obviously tastes good. I've been soaking these cashews for about an hour in some warm water, and I'm gonna puree them up, and you'll see what I mean. First, we're gonna get started with the soup. I'm gonna turn on a heavy pot to high heat. I'm gonna add some olive oil. And then here I've got a big yellow onion that I chopped up. And it's okay to do a rough chop, like it's all gonna get pureed in the end. And then 2 whole garlic cloves. And you just wanna put this all in. I always like to add a sprinkle of kosher salt right away. It starts to break down the onions more quickly and they release their juices. We'll season more later, but this is a good start. So I'm leaving those to start kind of breaking down, and I'm gonna get all the tomatoes ready. You want about 8 cups, and I just will use whatever I have on hand. So sometimes that looks like really big heirloom tomatoes. I have these little guys that grow on the vine. And then cherry tomatoes. I know a lot of us will go to the store and buy them by the pound because they're so pretty. And then you're like, oh no, what do I do with these? They've been sitting around for a couple days and they start to look sad. This is a great solution for those. And even with these guys, I'm just gonna cut them in half because by exposing the inside of the tomato, they're gonna cook more quickly. This is about 8 cups of ripe tomatoes that I'm gonna add to my simmering onions and garlic. So those have been simmering for a few minutes, and now I'm gonna add 4 cups of organic vegetable broth. Now you just add a lid, turn the heat down and walk away. And you wanna let that simmer for about 20 minutes until the tomatoes have completely burst and everything's really soft and ready for the blender. So while the soup is cooking, I'm going to make our cashew cream, which is the secret ingredient of why this soup is so incredibly delicious. Outside, of course, of the ripe, in-season tomatoes and fragrant basil. But these are just whole raw cashews, and they have been soaking in some warm water for about an hour. You could do this overnight even, and then they're really soft. But an hour will definitely work. Okay, so the key to this is that you have a really good high-powered blender. That is going to make all the difference when you are making a cashew cream or pureeing any kind of nut. So when you turn it on, you want to start on a low speed and then turn it up high. Okay, you guys, this is so silky smooth. This is the power of the Vitamix. Like a really amazing blender can create things that you wouldn't normally have. So look at how smooth that is. And it's gonna give such a gorgeous velvety texture to the tomato soup. And it has a really mild flavor. I can leave the extra cashew cream in the blender because we're just gonna puree it with the soup anyways. But the rest of this I'm gonna set aside and we'll whisk in at the very end. Okay, this has been simmering for about 20 minutes. And everything, steam facial, smells so good. All of the tomatoes are really soft, and I'm just gonna start ladling it into the blender. You have to do this in a few batches because you do not want to have your blender explode with hot liquid, and you must start the blender out on low. I'm also going to add a handful of fresh basil leaves, and then you'll start it really slowly. Okay, thanks to my high-speed blender, I have a nice smooth tomato soup. And the color of the tomatoes you use obviously has a big impact on the color of the soup. I used a bunch of yellow tomatoes, so it's orange. There's also a bunch of basil in there. And I used so much basil in that first batch that I'm actually just gonna puree the tomatoes and onions in this second. there you go. And you'll see like this batch is a lot more red than the other one, but we can pour it all back into the pot now and it will all mix together. Oh my gosh, look at that color, it's so gorgeous. Stir this all together. You can really decide how much you want to add, but I like to add a pretty healthy amount. And then you can save this for all kinds of other ideas. You can head to the blog for cashew cream. But you'll really see in here that you can whisk it in and it will get really creamy and the color will start to change as though you've added heavy cream to your soup. It's that easy. Now you just bring it back to the stove top and turn it on until it's simmering. This is also when you want to adjust for taste by adding more kosher salt until it's just the right taste for you. Some fresh black pepper is always a good idea. And there's no rules with the amounts of seasoning, you just need to season to taste because the tomatoes are all so different at this time of year. Okay, this is hot and simmering and it kind of starts to get a little bit thick when you reheat it. And now I'm just going to ladle this into a bowl. It's hot. And then this is where I like to take the cashew cream and do an extra little drizzle on the top because I'm fancy like that. And there you go. And you could definitely garnish it with a little bit of fresh basil just for some added flavor and color. There you go, creamy vegan tomato basil soup. The best thing to do with all of your tomatoes.